Hello art friends, Melisa here. In today's video, I've created another scene for a Tim Holtz paper doll. And look at this little cutie. I'm using one of the larger paper dolls in this layout, so I created it in my 8x8 Arteza art journal versus the 5.5 by 5.5 that you've seen me use in a lot of my videos. I used transparent wings and an ephemera pack from the Idea-ology line by Tim Holtz. I got the wings from Amazon and the ephemera pack from Hobby Lobby. There's several options in the ephemera packs, and this one is called Field Notes. Also used some distress inks and some doilies and lace in the background to add some texture. So the idea to use the magnifying glass came to me as I started unpacking the Field Notes ephemera. I started thinking about my grandkids. I had taken my grandson Malachi on a hike to a local park with a bug kit last summer. Now this is just what's left over. I used a lot of it in the layout, and there's still tons left over to use for future projects. So we had a lot of fun at the park. We had a bug kit. We came home with a dragonfly in our bug kit, and we also discovered a special ant called a red velvet ant. So it was really cool to actually see that and then to go home and watch videos and study up on it. But the bug kit came with a magnifying glass, so I thought it would be really cute to have one of the paper dolls sitting on a magnifying glass for this layout. So I started searching for a free magnifying glass image online, copied and pasted it into a Word document, and then sized it to fit the paper doll. So I just wanted to take a minute to show you some of the great stuff that comes in this kit. So then I started thinking about a story and some journaling for the layout. And I imagined a sweet little girl whose mom was always dressing her up in pretty dresses and putting bows in her hair. And she would play with dolls and have tea parties like all the other little girls. But unlike all the other little girls, she loved being outside, exploring nature, holding bugs and snakes. And this reminded me of my granddaughter, Finley. Finley, if you ever watch this, Gigi was thinking about you, girl. I even wrote a little rhyme, and it reads, "She looked just like all the other little girls, but this little girl was different. She loved to run through the forest in her Sunday best, chasing butterflies and bees. She loved hunting for spiders and other creepy crawlies while getting dirt on her knees." If you like the title and the journaling and the magnifying glass that I came up with, leave me a comment below the video and I'll set that up to email it to you. Alright, so let's get started and see how this layout came together. As you're watching, notice how I designed and carried out a contrasting theme throughout, beginning with the character, then the elements in the background, and even the fonts I chose for the title. I started by gluing down some book text designer paper by a scrapbook company called 7 Gypsies. And this was an 8x8 pad, so it worked perfectly for this layout. So when the video starts, that's where we're going to be at. I've already glued down that paper. I started by gluing together several elements that would become the focal point of the layout. Combining the separate elements into a cohesive cluster allowed me to move them back and forth over the layout easily once I started planning the background. As I mentioned in the intro, the transparent wings and all the ephemera are from the Tim Holtz Idea-ology line. The ephemera pack is called Field Notes. Knowing where I'll be placing the foreground elements will help me plan the background. I'm going to collage some of the Field Notes elements into the background as well. I used several free fonts I found on dafont.com to create my title and journaling. The fonts are called Rosebud, Buttercup, and My Underwood. If you'd like to create this layout using the magnifying glass title and journaling that I use, leave me a comment below and I'll email you the Word document. So now I have a good plan for my foreground elements. A good tip is to take a photo of your plan before removing the elements so you can have a resource when you go to create your background and for when you're ready to add the foreground elements back onto the layout. So unfortunately, I started the background and forgot to turn the camera on, but thankfully I didn't get too far ahead. At this point, I had adhered some of the ephemera from the Field Notes pack to the background and then started adding distress ink with a blending tool. I used Vintage Photo and dried marigold. My goal was to make the ephemera look like it was part of the book paper. Next, I applied some gesso and acrylic paint. The acrylic paint color was buttercream, and I used a baby wipey to blend and to remove paint as well. I wanted the ephemera and the book text to be cohesive and muted in the background so the foreground elements would stand out against it, especially since the colors were so similar. While we're watching this part of the video, I'd like to thank all of you who've been watching my Tim Holtz paper doll videos. They're becoming some of my most popular videos. If you haven't seen them all, look for a link in the description box below. It'll take you directly to the playlist with all of those ideas. I started using my new lighting system with this video. And what I'm figuring out is that this portion of the video looks really good. The background looks nice, bright and white. But the first section did not, and I think that's because I forgot to turn off my overhead light. So bear with me as I continue to learn and grow in making art videos. Here you can see how adhering the parts of my focal point together, creating the clusters, made it easy to move them back over the background to evaluate what I wanted to do next. I'm going to add more gesso to knock back the background a little more. I actually use this technique a lot when I'm designing. You just don't see it a lot in this particular video because I edited it out. Here again, I have to apologize. I was working on this layout late at night after working all day, and I forgot to start the camera again. Off camera, I brought all my foreground elements over my background to help me plan the next step. I was happy with my grungy background, but just like there was a contrast in the character of this story, she's sweet and girly, but also likes nature and getting dirty. I wanted to carry that through in my background as well. So I used some large lace border strips and doilies to provide that contrast to the grungy background and to add some texture. You can get inexpensive doilies in the cake decorating departments at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. Now that the background's done, I started adhering some of the foreground elements. Another tip, use something heavy to sit on top of the elements while you're waiting on them to dry. I used my gesso and matte gel containers. You won't see it on the video because for the second time I edited it out, but I used this quite a bit because the elements didn't want to stick to the lace right away. Also, each of the ephemera elements had kind of a grayish border around them, So I did do a lot of fussy cutting for mine and trim that off. It was accidental that a few of the letters of the strange part of the title ended up tilted. But as soon as it happened, I thought it appropriate for the word strange. Sometimes I use stamps, stickers, or chipboard to create my title or journaling, but I didn't really have anything that fit for this project. And again, I wanted the contrast of pretty and grungy in the title as well, so I used contrasting font styles to communicate that. Both of the magnifying glasses were printed on regular printer paper and then colored with watercolors. While I was coloring the small magnifying glass, I thought it would be so cool if I could actually make it look like there was some glass. So I created this illusion by gluing it to some packaging and trimming it. I love how it turned out. I just wish I had thought of it before I adhered the larger one to the layout. These are pop dots. They're foam stickers that pop your element off the page and add dimension. They're used in card making and scrapbooking. I don't usually use 3D tape or pop dots in an art journal because they make your book too thick. But I couldn't help it with this one. This particular set of pop dots is from Stampin' Up. I like them because they aren't too thick. I also use foam tape made by 3M, and you can get a roll of that at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. I used an eyeshadow applicator to apply some distress ink around the edges of the word strips to make them pop off the background. I also used some of the foam tape to pop up a few of the words here and there as well to add interest. So here everything is glued down. I just needed to finish off the paper doll. Adding the orange pattern paper behind the wings was the perfect addition to make her pop off the page. And then I used some alcohol markers to add a little color to her. That's it for today's video. I hope you're inspired to do some art journaling of your own, and if you are, please let me know. I'd love to see what you create. If you enjoyed today's video, then please give it a thumbs up and share with others who love mixed media art journaling. Thank you so much for your support and for helping me to grow my channel. See you next time.